Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next The Reckoning of Roku chapter analysis video. This one's going to be for chapter 36, which is called The Teeth of the Trap. Once again, YouTube channel membership is enabled if you want to help support the channel, and subscribing also helps. So we get an action chapter here with Malaya and Gyatso as they execute on their plan, and this of course relates to some action here, as of course they have to deal with the guards that were around. Yes, as expected, Amihan does arrive, and so we get some kind of Gyatso in action, but also Malaya in a big fight here against Amihan. That's the way they go with it. So let's jump in here. So at the start, we just get the plan going off, and it goes off without a hitch. Malaya hits all of her shots, the cages fall, Gyatso reacts quite quickly, and is able to manage the extent to which he has to cushion the fall quite well, because he still needs the cages to break, but not to injure the people inside, and it works. So the Earthbenders are freed, and the idea is that they immediately go to run away rather than fight, so things haven't quite gone super well for what they kind of planned to do, causing a bit of chaos. Meaning that it leaves Gyatso and Malaya to have to fight everyone that was down here, of course. So Malaya reunites with Kilat, her gorilla tarsier, and heads up into the trees to be the kind of sniper with her bow, while Gyatso is going to go more up close with Kamau, the firebender, and Mama Maril, of course, who is the expert sort of non-bender kind of hand-to-hand fighter, as well as knives and stuff like that. So Malaya gets to see from a distance Gyatso in action properly for the first time. She's a bit worried about him, but actually we get to see why he is this prodigy, why he was so advanced at such a young age before what happened to Yama happened. And he is just incredible here, doing 2-on-1 against a firebender and a skilled non-bender when it looks like he's about to get taken out. He's like a leaf in the wind, and he dodges the non-bender attacks and deals with the firebending. And so this is where Malaya's like, okay, you're giving me the opening here. First arrow, she gets Kamau right in the shoulder, so she gets her kind of own back on him for being kind of rude to her before. Then she aims the next arrow at Mama Maril, but something puts the arrow off course, and this is the arrival of Amihan on her own gorilla tarsier. This is also where it's kind of revealed that this is Amihan sort of setting the trap for them, for Malaya basically, overall. And so Malaya gets an airbending slash. She gets hit with that across her shoulder, and this is the fight that's going to happen. So Gyatso's dealing with everyone on the ground, and up in the trees we're going to have this very cool fight where they're both on top of their gorilla tarsiers, but Malaya is facing off against like one of the most skilled fighters in the clan, in Amihan the Airbender. So finally Amihan says a real challenge, and so we get this cool sequence where like they're fighting in the trees. They basically have an up-close knife fight, but Amihan is also occasionally adding in the airbending slices and doing damage to Malaya. We see that they kind of split off, and the two gorilla tarsiers start to fight also, and then Malaya's running out of kind of space here. She has to get away, so she hops from one tree to the other, realizing she's not going to make it, and it's just like, Gyatso. And while he's dealing with people on the ground, he just gives her an airbending boost to make it across the jump into the next tree. And Amihan is sort of impressed by this nice trick, but the knife fight sort of continues overall. There is some dialogue back and forth here, as it's just described, of like a flurry of attacks, blocks, counter strikes, forearms and hands and elbows blocked and locked and twisted. The older scout had years of additional experience, but Malaya had the speed and agility of youth, and all she'd learned from sparring with Mama Maril since she was a small girl. Amihan says, I warned Ulo that we couldn't trust you as a scout. You ask too many questions. And Malaya's response is, you don't ask enough. This is where Amihan chops does an airbending chop and slices the knife out of Malaya's hand, and it falls away overall. Then Malaya is forced to be kind of dodging sort of up close. So she goes in next to the kind of tree trunk, and as they're having their conversation, she keeps on trying to dodge and ask the question, how many people have you killed for Ulo over the years? As many as he asked me to, is the answer. So at one point she dodges the blade, but the blade then gets stuck in the tree. So this is where they're both now without their knives overall. And so it's just hand to hand. Malaya kicks Amihan, kind of sends her back a little bit. You're not going to take any more lives. And the counter is that you're putting our entire clan in danger. This is where Malaya goes on the offensive, realizing that the only chance she's going to have against an airbender is to just keep attacking enough that Amihan basically can't airbend in response here. So that's what's happening here. We get like metal biting into flesh 1, 2, 3 times, and Amihan's forearms are bruised and bleeding and stuff like that. She's preparing to end the fight here, but then all of a sudden Amihan slips, hits her head on the branch and kind of falls towards the ground, but her gorilla Tarsier, jumps in to save her. So Amihan doesn't die from falling out of the trees, but for now she is out of the fight. Malaya has got the advantage here overall. So that's what happens here. And again, Malaya had grabbed Amihan's knife that got stuck in the tree. That's why she was able to kind of press the advantage here in this section of the fight. So yeah, Keyleth then comes over to Malaya, and so she heads back down to the ground, wanting to rush down to help Gyatso, because he is outnumbered on the ground, even though he was doing okay. And when she gets back down, Gyatso's just there hanging out, and it's just revealed that Kamau and Mama Maril were unconscious but bound together, and he's just casually blowing a leaf in the air with his airbending, and he's just like, thanks for helping with Amihan. It seemed like you had it under control. Apparently so did you. And Gyatso's just like, I didn't want to brag before, but I'm a pretty good airbender. And he's just doing some crazy stuff with his staff at this point. And they look back to, okay, this is resolved for the most part, but where have the airbenders gone to? They're heading in this direction. That means they're heading at the same time towards their ship, but also towards the village. We're not done here. There's going to be a further incident because more of the clan is going to meet these earthbenders and there's going to be some sort of a conflict. And so she's on Keyleth. She makes some space for Gyatso, and finally it's happening. Gyatso gets to ride on the back of a gorilla Tarsier, and he's like, finally. And so that's the end of the chapter, with just smiling Gyatso having done some impressive fighting, and also now gets to ride a gorilla Tarsier as they head to further protect the earthbenders as they kind of make their way out, but also, I suppose, to sort of protect the clan as well from whatever the earthbenders might do on their way to escape. It's a complicated situation that we have here, but nice action overall here. I like that we got the contrast here of a skilled non-bender fighter against an airbender, and portraying a fight that it makes sense how she could stay in it, of like against pretty much any bender. Like, the idea is if you're just quick enough and you stay on them enough, you force a bender to kind of in a way not be able to sort of like charge up their attacks, and they have to focus on blocking the non-bender strikes hand to hand more so than generating their bending. And you can see that worked well for her here. That, if Amihan wasn't as skilled with a knife as she was, you could see the other advantage here as well. But of course, the other aspect of it is that Amihan has the better agility through the trees, and this is where Keyleth came into play, along with some assistance from Gyatso, of course. So I really like the action here. They didn't spend like a huge amount of time on it, but it gets across the idea that Malaya is skilled. To be a scout in the clan, you have to be one of the more skilled fighters in the clan, and you can see that in what was happening here. So pretty good stuff, but Amihan is still basically in play because she got away. She's just going to have to wake back up after being kind of knocked out, basically. by slipping, of course, which is not something you expect an airbender to do in a situation like this. Speaking to the idea of balance is probably one of the things you associate most with the air nomads and their style of bending, but obviously Amihan not as maybe skilled in that department necessarily, but still very skilled overall to engineer this trap, even though it's not worked out for her here. So there are my thoughts on this, but in the comments let me know what your thoughts were on this action set piece here for Malaya and Gyatso. But otherwise, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.